I'm glad you guys have chosen to be here on this Sunday morning at Discover Church. It's summer's winding down, and we're getting back in our routine, and I'm glad to see you guys here. Anybody been watching the Olympics at all? Anybody? All right, put your hands down. Anybody tired of the Olympics yet? All right, my daughter raises her hand. Yeah, she raised her hand because I am an Olympics junkie. Here's the deal: I don't watch a lot of sports, so it's kind of weird. I like to play a lot of sports and I like to do stuff, but I don't really like to watch other people do it. It's not really my thing. But some reason, about every 4 years or so, I get this longing to watch rhythmic gymnastics or something, something really weird that's on TV, and they're giving away medals for these crazy things that they call sports. And it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch because you see people who have dedicated their entire lives to go after one goal. Their entire lives are dedicated to go after one thing and to give it everything they've got. And so I love to watch that. I love to watch the victories and when they're winning. And to be honest with you, I like to see what they do when they lose. And I like to see what happens when they stick a microphone in their face just after they've, lost a big race, and what words are at the tip of their tongue, what comes out. I love to see them when they stand on the podium. Oh, man. When they stand on the podium. They've won the gold medal, and they stand there, and then all of a sudden these three flags go up, but just above everybody else, the United States flag, and they start playing the national anthem. And I don't care how big and burly the guy is, when he's standing up there and he's got this medal around his neck and he's holding this little bouquet of flowers, and the flag rises, you see tears go in his eyes. He starts to well up because there has come a conclusion to everything he's been working for. He's lifted weights his entire life. He looks like a balloon now because he's worked out so hard, and so now he's there, and the national anthem is playing, and he's like, he's crying. I love to watch that. I love to watch it because here's what happens. I'm sitting in my chair eating my Doritos, and I'm thinking, well, I never did that, but I sure am glad he did, and I get this pride in my country because, we're winning gold medals and we're showing all those other countries who's boss, I'm competitive, so I like that. And I look at the medal count every day to see who's ahead. I look, and we finally edged out the Chinese, and so now we've got them beat in every category. And so I like that. I enjoy doing that. And the reason I think I enjoy it so much is because of the dedication. I watched an interview the other day with the women's gymnastics team. And I think that's a stretch because those girls are like 14 years old. And so they should really call it girls gymnastics, but they call it women's gymnastics. And here are these young girls, my daughter's age, that are sitting there with whoever's interviewing them. I can't remember his name, but he's sitting there and he's asking them questions. And I'm listening to them. And just in every word that they speak, you can see and you can hear the determination. And you can hear the years and years. Granted, they're only 14 years old, but ever since they could walk, their parents have been throwing them up on some apparatus, and screaming at them when they fell off. And no, I'm sure they didn't do that. But they were putting them up on these things, and these girls had been working all of their life, and their life goal had come to fruition. And they had won a gold medal. And it was neat to listen to them as they talked with pride. They weren't ashamed. They weren't embarrassed. They weren't apologizing. They were sitting there with a bit of humbleness that they were in that moment, but also with a bit of pride, saying, "This is what I started out to do, and I completed it." It's my favorite part of the Olympics, to watch the medal ceremony and then watch the interviews afterwards. I love to see how they react, how they've given their whole lives to one goal. I want to talk to you this morning. We're going to continue in our series on parables, and I want to read you a couple parables here, and we're going to talk about goals and treasures. Winning the Olympic medalists, they live their whole life to go after that medal. They want that gold medal, and they want to hear their national anthem, and they want to stand there in front of crowds of people cheering on the hard work and the dedication that they have done. We look at things like the women's 400-meter relay, set a world record. They were blazing. I don't think I could have drove my truck as fast as they ran around that 400 meters. I mean, it was unbelievable the way they were running. But their whole lives have been dedicated to that. And to see them at the end celebrate, and me be able to celebrate with them simply because I'm an American. I wasn't there when they were working out. I wasn't there when they were getting up early and running because I hate to run. I wasn't doing that. But they were out there doing it. And at the end of it, I get to celebrate just because they represent my country. That's awesome to me. That's awesome to me. Jesus is talking in a parable in Luke chapter 14. Luke chapter 14, verse 27. I want to read this. There's actually two parables kind of stuck here together. And 27 through 30. It says, "And you cannot be my disciple if you do not carry your own cross and follow me. But you don't begin," listen to this, "you don't begin until you count the cost. For who would begin construction of a building without first getting estimates and then checking to see if there's enough money to pay the bills? Otherwise, you might complete only the foundation before running out of funds. And then how everyone would laugh at you. They would say, 'There's the person who started that building and ran out of money before it was finished.'" Now, you think, oh, that's kind of cruel, people making fun of them. But you have to understand the time that Jesus was talking about here. This was written, and he told this story inside of a culture that was a shame and honor society. Your reputation was built on shame and honor. How people perceived you was one of the most important things of that time. And it's kind of like high school, guys, young people. It's kind of like high school. Everything was shame and honor. It was all dependent on what you did from one day to the next. Your reputation was built. And sometimes it was hard to get out of some of those reputations. And sometimes it was hard to build a new reputation. And so it was a shame and honor culture. And no one wants to fail. By show of hands, how many people got up this morning and goes, you know what? I would really like to fail. I would just really like to bomb. Nobody? Nobody really had that goal this morning? Now, I woke up with real fears that I could. I have to play the guitar this morning. I have to speak. I'm thinking, this is a day that I could really bomb. I could fail. But my goal was not to get up here and to fail. My goal was to, speak words that God gives me, and somehow that's going to change your life. And I don't know. We'll see how it goes at the end. But my goal here is not to fail in what I'm doing. And none of you set out this morning to fail. And that's what Jesus is talking about. He's saying no one sets out to achieve something without first looking at what it's going to cost them to do it. He's talking about building a wall. And landowners in that time, if they would build walls around their orchards and around their crops. And they would build these walls, and then the really wealthy ones would build a watchtower in the corner. And if you happen to start building a wall and building your watchtower, and then you ran out of money, you might as well not even have built a wall. People are going to laugh at you because you ran out of money to build your wall. And so here's what they're thinking. You ran out of money to build your wall. That means you haven't hired a guard to watch your crops. So at night, I'm coming in and taking everything you've got. And Jesus is saying, you would be crazy to start a project like that without counting the cost, without seeing what it's going to cost you to build this wall. Maybe you need to build a smaller wall. Maybe you can afford a bigger wall. Whatever it is, you've got to look at the cost, what it's going to cost you to do what you're starting out doing. Okay, that's all great. I don't plan on building a wall, John, so how's this apply to my life? Well, if you're going to be a follower of Christ, and you're going to try, some of you have made a decision. I'm going to follow Christ, and I'm going to live a Christian life. My treasure, my goal, the thing that I'm going to try to do is get as close to God as I can get. Well, when you set out in that, believe it or not, that's going to cost you some things. There's some things that you're going to have to give up in order to achieve that goal. There's some things that you've got to do before you're going to get there. And so before you make a decision like that, or as you're making a decision like that, you seriously don't need to go into a relationship with Christ blindly. You don't just fall in and say, I'm doing it, and not count what it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you some things. And so if you're going to start out on this Christian journey, the first thing you have to do is count the cost. Count the cost. What's it going to cost you to live for Christ. Jesus promises us that we will succeed if we'll count the cost and then do the second thing, which is pay the price. Pay the price. I want to read another parable, short parable to you. Matthew 13:44. Matthew 13, verse 44. It says, "The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure that a man discovered hidden in a field. In his excitement, he hid it again and sold everything he owned to get enough money to buy the field and to get the treasure too. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a pearl merchant on the lookout for choice pearls. When he discovered a pearl of great value, he sold everything he owned and he bought it." You have to calculate the price, and then you have to be willing to pay it. This parable, Jesus talks about a man who goes into a field and he finds a treasure. I don't know what the treasure was. Doesn't really say. I think he leaves it up to our imagination. Maybe it was a lifetime supply of bacon or something, something that's worth some money, something that's worth something to go. Maybe it was just a chest full of gold. Maybe it was something that was just too unbelievable to pass up. And here's the deal. He didn't have enough money to buy the treasure. Obviously, the treasure was very valuable. And he didn't have the money to buy the treasure that was hidden on this piece of land that he didn't own. So what he did was he took the treasure, he covered it back up, and he went back home and he started rounding stuff up and putting it on Craigslist. And he sold everything that he owned in order to get that thing that he wanted. He didn't have enough money to buy the treasure, but he had enough money to buy the land that the treasure was on. And so he goes and he sells everything that he has and he buys this piece of land that this treasure is hidden on. He counted the cost and he said, "You know what? It's worth it. I'm going to pay the price. I want that treasure, whatever that is, that was more important to him than anything else he owned. That one thing was more important than everything else." You see, Jesus sees us as that kind of a treasure. Jesus sees us like that. The Bible says in 1 Corinthians that we are not our own, for we were bought with a price. Jesus paid a price for us. We are His treasure. He loved us so much. The Bible says that God loved us so much that He gave His only begotten Son, that whoever would believe on Him should not perish but have everlasting life. He gave His only Son everything that He had. He gave everything that He had for us to get close to us because we are His treasure. And in return, He asks us to pay a price. Well, what is that price? That price is everything. This guy sold everything that he owned in order to get the one thing that he knew that he wanted and needed. To get the treasure. When he sold everything that he owned and he bought this land, he became richer than he was in the first place. He might have lost and gave up everything, but he gained so much more. You see, it was worth it. It was worth it to him because he gained so much more than he gave up. And that's what Christ is asking us to do. If we're going to be successful and we count the cost and we want to pay the price that we have to pay is everything. Oh, John, that's a big price. I mean, there's some things I like to do. And there's some places I like to go. And there's some things I like to see. And there's just a lot of stuff that I really, I might lose some friends over it. And I don't know that it's worth it. Well, I don't either. I don't know that it's worth it for you. That's your choice. Now, I can promise you, you would like that decision if you did it. But you've got to count the cost. You've got to work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. It's for you to decide because God gave you a free will. That guy that dug up that treasure, he had some choices to make. There's a good chance he could have taken that treasure. Bible doesn't say anybody was around. Doesn't say that there were people that were watching him as he dug it up, because if they were watching him as he dug it up, they would have went and told the master, or they would have got it themselves. So he was probably scot-free. He probably could have just taken off with that treasure. But he didn't think that was the right thing to do. He didn't think that was the right way to go about it. He thought, I can do this the right way, and I can come out ahead. It's the same thing with our Christian walk. You can do it the wrong way. You can struggle. And you can pay part of the price, but not pay everything. Maybe you want to just try to lease the land for a while. I found this treasure, so I'm going to lease the land. And I'm going to dig up that treasure on that leased land. The problem is, that land doesn't belong to you. And so that landowner is going to say, you found that treasure on my land? You're just leasing that land. That's my land, so that's my treasure. But a lot of us try to kind of lease out our Christian walk. We just want bits and pieces of it. We just want to, I want to go to Discover Church because it's cool. And those guys, they give me free donuts and the coffee. It's okay depending on who makes it, and so I can get by with that. They do have Sunny D. It's consistent. It's always Sunny D. So we can, unless they don't get it, and then they get that nasty orange juice stuff that nobody will drink. But, pretty much for the most part, it's a fun place to be. And so I'll just go to Discover Church, and then I'm going to live my normal life all throughout the week. But on Sunday mornings at 10:30, I'm going to show up at Discover Church, and I'm going to eat my donuts and a couple songs into worship. I'm going to come in, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to lift my hands, I'm going to praise Him, I'm going to listen to whatever Chad or John or whoever has to say, and then I'm going to go home, and I'm going to start my week all over again. You can do that. Some of you do that. It's your choice. But you're paying part of the price. You're not paying everything. The price that Christ requires of us is everything. It's all of us. You either belong totally to Him or totally to yourself. And you have to decide. You have to decide. You can't lease out your Christianity. You can't just go part way. It's an all or nothing. It's an all or nothing thing. It's kind of like running a race at the Olympics. You can't enter the 500 or the 400 meters and then just run 200 and say, I was at 200 meters faster than everybody else, give me a gold. Well, it doesn't work that way. You have to run the whole 400 meters. You have to run the whole race. And if you win at the end of the whole race, then we'll give you your gold medal. But you can't stop and say you were ahead at 200 and so you get the medal. But we live our lives like that. Think about that. We live our lives like that. We live our lives saying, oh, well, I did just good enough. At the end of the day, God will know I'm a good person and it'll be okay. But that's really kind of a watered down version of what Jesus really has for us. What He has for us is not just life, which we're all living right now, but He wants to give us life more abundantly. A super life. A gold medal life. An abundant life. A life where we're in the spotlight. A life where people are following our example. A life where people they're drawn to us because we are walking so close to Him. That's the kind of life that Christ wants to give us. Sadly, that's not a life that a lot of us are willing to walk in. Some of us aren't willing to pay the price. We're not willing to pay a price. Are you willing to pay the price? Are you willing to pay the price this morning? After you've considered the cost, you know what it's going to cost you. It's pretty simple. It costs you everything. You give everything to God, and then He'll freely give everything back to you. The promise is much like this person in the parable. The person that goes and he finds the treasure, he finds Christ, and he finds what he's after, and he goes and he buys the whole piece of property surrounding the treasure. And he says, I want it all. And he goes in and he gets the treasure, and he comes out with more than he ever started with. That's what you can do this morning. You can go to your treasure, your gold medal, and you can have everything. You can have life more abundantly when it's all said and done. He's the treasure that you're seeking. He's the treasure that you're after. He's the goal at the end of all the hard work, at the end of all the dedication, at the end of everything that you put yourself through, at the end of all of your struggles, at the end of all of your trials, at the end of your sickness, at the end of everything, there is Christ. And He will never leave you or forsake you. He is always there. And all He requires of us is all of us. It's all He requires. Count the cost. You pay the price. And then you've got to finish strong. You've got to finish strong. I was watching the other day the Olympics, the women's 1500. The lady's name was, I wrote it down so I can remember, Usain. Usain was her name. She wasn't favored to win the race. They didn't think she had a chance at gold. But she was America's best hope for a medal in the mid-distance, the 1500 meter. She was our best hope for a medal. And I watched the race. She was in the middle of the pack. She was doing great. They told this backstory as the race was going on, that she had been in the World Championships 2 years ago. She was favored in that race. And about 150 meters from the end, somebody stepped on her foot, clipped her, she fell down. She was out of the race. Didn't win it. So she was coming back at the Olympics to redeem herself. She's running the race. She's about 200 meters from the finish line. The runner just in front of her takes a stride up, and it catches her knee, and down she goes. And of course, all of the cameras, woof, just to watch what happens. I know it's morbid of me. I know it's not the right thing to do. But I moved to the edge of my seat, and I just wanted to see how she reacted. What's she going to do? Because I thought this is going to be one of those Olympic moments. This is going to be like that Derek, what's his name? Derek, several years ago, he was running the race, and he was favored, and he fell down, and his dad came out on the track, and he helps him limp across the finish line. I thought, this, man, I get to watch this. I don't get to just have to watch it on YouTube. I get to watch it live. This is going to happen. And she sat there, and she slapped the track, and obviously she was crying, and she was distraught, as any of us would be, and she was just mortified that this had happened to her a second time. And the camera stayed on her, and the camera stayed on her, and everybody else finished the race, and the camera stayed on her. Nobody came over to her. Nobody said a word, until finally one of the medical guys goes out, says something to her, and she gets up, and she walks off the track. And my heart, my heart broke for her. It really did. I felt so bad for her. But I thought, finish! Finish! Just finish the race. I know you're in last place, but you've worked your whole life to get to this point. Finish the race. It might hurt. You might be limping. I know you're bleeding. I can see it, but you can make it to the finish line. Finish the race, please. And she walks off. And she leaves the arena. I thought, man, what a missed opportunity. What a missed opportunity. She quit. I know it was bad, and I know that she had no chance of winning, and I understand all that, but she just quit. And I think of other Olympic athletes, and I think of was his name Redmond? Was it Derek Redmond? Was that it, Daniel? Okay, maybe. It was something like that. He finished the race, and I think of the dude that was there. He ran in the I believe in the 200, and he ran in a relay as well. The double amputee that ran with the able-bodied guys. He was a double amputee, and he was running in the Olympics, not the Paralympics, but the Olympics. And he did awesome. And he wasn't even from America, but I was cheering for him because I'm like, dude, that is awesome. He's finishing his race. It's not the way he wanted it to happen. It's not what he had dreamed of when he was a kid. It's not exactly the way that he thought it would look, but he's finishing his race. He's competing. He's running. And I was looking at this lady, and I was saying, please, get up. Just get up and finish the the race. And I think God sometimes, in watching our lives and being involved in our lives, is looking at us and saying, don't give up. Don't give up. I understand you may not be the best Christian. I understand that you may get it wrong sometimes. I understand that you may trip and fall, and sometimes it may not even be your fault. But what I want you to do is get up and finish the race. Finish. Finish strong. You took the time to count the cost and to pay the price. Don't quit now. Don't quit just because it gets a little tough. Don't quit because it gets a little hard. What I want you to do is finish the race. Paul was able to say that. He said, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have run my course. And so I guess my question to you is, wherever you are in this race, this Christianity thing, this life that we live chasing after God and seeking our treasure, wherever you are in all of that, what I'm asking you to do this morning is to finish. Finish strong. Finish strong. Don't give up. Don't quit just because things didn't go your way or things didn't happen the way you had it in your head. Never, 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 never quit. If you get knocked down, just get right back up. You know what? Sometimes you get knocked down and it hurts. And you have to lay there for a little while. That's okay. That's all right. God's going to be there. God's going to help you through that process. God's right there with you, and He's saying, you know, we can stay here just as long as you need to stay here. But as soon as you can, get up and start running again. And maybe you can't run right off the bat. Maybe you're going to have to walk. Maybe you're going to have to lean on some other Christians that'll just help you get going again. Help you work all that stuff out. But whatever you do, finish. Finish. Jesus wants you to have an Olympic moment. And I'm pretty sure that when you get to heaven, there's not going to be a podium that you stand on, and they won't raise like the Christian flag and play Amazing Grace or anything, but it's going to be a moment that feels like that. It's going to be a moment where you stand before Christ, and He said, way to finish. You finished strong. Good job. I realized you failed back there. But you know what? I wasn't so concerned about the fact that you failed. What really impressed me about you was that you got back up and you started running again. What really impresses me about you is that you didn't stay there and you didn't just say, forget it, all this is too hard, I'm leaving. But instead you got up and you finished the race. The Bible puts it that He'll say, well done, my good and faithful servant. But I've played sports all my life, and I see Jesus slugging me or slapping me or something, saying, man, way to finish. Good job. That's what I want. At the end, when all this is over, this is just the pains of the race. And it's not a short race. It's not a 100-meter sprint. This is a long race that we're in. And we've all counted the cost. We're deciding if we want to pay the price. And if we pay that high of a price to follow a Savior, and He paid that high of a price for us, why in the world would we not finish that race? So I want to encourage you this morning. I want to encourage you this morning to finish strong. You may have come into this place this morning and you said, you know what, I feel exactly like that lady you're describing. Right now, if you were to look at my life in Olympic terms, I'm laying on the track and I'm bleeding. And this morning I have to make a decision whether I get up and I finish or I get up and I leave. If you don't listen to anything else that has been said this morning, listen to this. Finish the race. You might not be in first place. That's okay. Finish the race. Don't quit. Don't give up. If being a Christian were easy, everybody would do it. It wouldn't be anything special. It's not easy. No one ever told you that if you gave your life to Christ, just your life was going to be, woo, it's all good now. No. Finish your race and finish it strong.